Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Divorce Coach Diaries. So, today I wanted to talk about something that I think about a lot in my personal life, and it comes up in almost every client session for me. And that is what we think about ourselves or our relationship with ourselves. This matters more than we can even imagine. I have spent years as a coach and a client working on my own relationship with myself, and yet I don't even think I have any idea at all how much of an impact this makes in our lives. It is at the center of everything, and improving it intentionally will have an impact in every area of our lives. So when you think about your relationship with yourself, what is it? What do you think of when I say, what's your relationship with yourself like? A lot of times, especially after we have been in a really toxic relationship with somebody else, we have completely lost touch of the relationship with ourselves, because often what is coming into us from the outside is so negative, is so toxic, is so damaging that it's like we're trying to not drown in what's coming in from the outside, that there's nothing left for us to focus on creating the relationship that we want with ourselves on purpose. We spend all of our energy just trying to stay afloat and stay alive sometimes with the feedback and the treatment that we're getting from the toxic person in our lives. So if that's you and you don't even know what to say or what to think when I say, how's your relationship with yourself? Don't worry. Because the thing with our relationship with ourselves is we're always here with ourselves, which sounds kind of funny, but the thing about the relationship within ourselves is that it can always change, it can always improve. We can always work on it, and it is always worth it to work on it. So I just want to pose a few questions and challenge you to think about them. So my first question is, what do you think about you? And this is a question that sometimes it's really painful and it's really eye-opening to answer honestly, especially after we've been in a toxic relationship. But I want to ask you to sit with that and answer honestly and transparently and authentically so that you know where you're starting from. And we have a lot of areas that affect the relationship with ourselves. We have our mental health and what we think about that. We have our physical health. We have our physical appearance. We have our relationships with our family of origin, our parents, our siblings, our community that we grew up in. We have relationships with our children, our partners, our ex-partners, our relationship with people that we work with, there's all of these areas that affect our relationship with ourselves. So I want to ask you again, what do you think about you? There's probably some areas that you feel more confident or more positively about yourself than others. Some of us might say, well, I feel great about myself when I'm at work, but when I'm at home with my kids, I just feel like a mess. And others of us might say, when I'm in the gym, I love myself, but then I go to work and I just feel like I can't do anything right, or that I'm just lacking in all these big ways and always falling behind. So I want to challenge you to spend some time and think about the answer to, what do you think about you and why? Why do you think that about yourself? Because it makes perfect sense why your answers are what they are. We are the sum of our lived experiences, and that's what makes us who we are. So don't have any judgment for yourself for why you think what you think about yourself, or even what you think about yourself, because it makes sense. Just practice being aware and being the watcher, and figure out what it is that you think about yourself and why. So another question that I think is so fascinating to ponder is, do you believe someone when they say something positive about you? And do you believe someone when they say something negative about you? Human nature often, if we're not a narcissist or a sociopath, is to cast aside the positive things people say about us and internalize hugely all the negativity. I just think that is so interesting to observe in myself and others. It's like if someone says, "Oh, you did a great job on that presentation today." You might think, "Oh gosh, I mean, didn't they hear me mess up here and here? And oh, well, it wasn't as good as this other person's the other day." Or, "Oh, they're just saying that because they don't want to say what they really think." Or, things like that is sometimes what we think when someone gives us a compliment or says something positive to us. We just don't even want to believe it, or it's so uncomfortable to believe it. And the opposite has the opposite effect on us sometimes, where we could have 8 people say something positive about us and we don't really believe it. And one person might say something that they didn't like about it, or would question something that you brought up, have some sort of criticism about it. And then it's like we're tunnel visioned all into that one negative comment, and it outweighs anything else that anyone would say positively. And I just think that is so fascinating to notice. And again, if this is you, don't worry. It makes sense. And we can work on improving your relationship with yourself so that those negative comments don't seem to carry so much weight. And you allow for the positivity to stick. So, how does your relationship with yourself impact your life? It impacts it in every way, even if we don't realize it. It impacts how we show up in other relationships with other people. It impacts how we parent, the decisions that we make in our lives every day. It impacts whether or not you keep your commitments to yourself. It impacts the goals that we want to set, or even what we think is possible for our lives, or what isn't possible for our lives. The relationship with ourselves affects the boundaries that we are willing to set to keep us healthy and protected, and how we hold those boundaries. I can't stress enough how important your relationship with yourself is. So, how do you improve your relationship with yourself, even if you feel like it's at a terrible place right now? I want to give you a few things that you can start to practice on your own, and they don't rely on anybody else in your life. So, first of all, start speaking to yourself as if you matter, because you do. You matter. What you want matters. What you like matters. What you don't like matters. You matter, and you have to be at the top of your own list. It's kind of like the same idea as they tell you on an airplane, put your own oxygen mask on before assisting somebody else, because if you can't breathe, you can't help anybody else. It's sort of the same idea here. If you're not in a healthy place inside of you, you can't show up in a healthy way for anybody else. And it affects everything. So start talking to yourself like you matter. Spend a little bit of quiet time with yourself every day and become the watcher. I talk about that sometimes. And if you don't know what I mean by that, this is what I mean. Someone who is the watcher, their only job is to observe and notice and be curious. We're not trying to change anything. We're not judging anyone or anything. We are simply watching what is happening right now. Because if we're not aware, we can't make any change when we want to. So when you're spending quiet time with yourself, just a little bit every day, even 30 seconds, notice how you're feeling, what you're thinking, what you're doing, and how you're showing up. Spend that time with yourself and listen and watch and just notice. We're also going to talk to ourselves in third person. I know this might sound a little wacky, but it really works in speaking to yourself like you matter. So it might sound a little bit like this. You might do it when you're brushing your teeth in the morning, or when you're making and pouring your first cup of coffee, or when you're getting ready for bed at night and taking off your makeup. It might sound like, hey girl, how was your day today? What did you do? Was there anything that we wanted to do that we didn't do? And why didn't we do that? Or how did we show up today? Did we like how we showed up? And if not, what was going on? Don't shoot yourself down when you start noticing things. Or if you notice when you say something like, hey, what is it that you need from me? If you answer yourself with a need, don't just discard it or say, oh, well, we could never do that. That's not possible. Don't do that. Just notice and be aware and be the watcher. Encourage yourself. Validate yourself. Talk to yourself like you are trying to encourage a child. Here's what I mean by encouraging and not shooting down. I have a daughter right now who has lots of big dreams. She's 12, she's in 6th grade. Her whole life is out in front of her, and she's got big plans for her future. She is going to go to NYU. She's going to study acting and to be a vet at NYU. I'm pretty sure NYU doesn't even have a vet school. Maybe I'm wrong. But she says she's going to be an actress on Broadway, and she's also going to be a veterinarian. Now, both of those things happening at the same time for her future is pretty unlikely. But it doesn't matter. All that matters to me right now as her mom is that she is exploring what she likes, what she sees for her future, why both of those things light her up inside. And she's going to work it all out eventually. And I am going to be there encouraging her and cheering her on all the time. All I want to do is encourage her to dream. If you have a dream or a need or a want or a like, don't shoot it down. Encourage it, validate it. Even if it's a big dream that you think is never going to happen, those are usually rooted in wants or desires that are less about the specific thing and more about something internal that we yearn for. So my daughter, who says she's going to be on Broadway in New York City, she just loves theater. And her desire for that really just comes down to wanting to be in productions and be in that group and in that world. We can make that happen. Talk to yourself like you would talk to your best friend. When we talk to our friends, we're generally a lot nicer than we are to ourselves. So, how do you talk to your friends? Do you tell your friends that they're stupid for wanting what they want, or that they should like things that they don't like, and it would be better for everyone if they were different, or that you would like them more if they were better at something? Of course, we don't talk to our friends like that. We wouldn't want to be our friend if we were terrible to each other all the time. When we are friends with someone else and when we're friends with ourselves, we talk to ourselves and each other like we matter. We encourage, we validate, we cheer each other on. So how can you be more of a friend to you? So before we end, I want to offer a belief that I am practicing believing every day that has changed the way that I think about myself and look at myself and talk to myself. I want to offer it to you to borrow and to try on and see if you like it as well. And that thought is this: I wouldn't want it if I wasn't capable of achieving it. And depending on what it is, you might need to tweak that belief a little bit, the words. But really, the meat of that belief is that I believe that anything that we truly desire, we have the capability for. Graduating from a master's program, starting a business, finding somebody to be in a healthy relationship and a healthy partnership with, certain physical health goals, whatever it is that we genuinely desire, we are capable of having. I believe this about me, and I believe it about you. And the starting point for achieving anything like this is to improve the relationship with us. This matters, and it is work worth doing. Improving your relationship with yourself will change your life more than you can even imagine. Thanks for joining me today. Once again, come and find me at my website, megthedivorcecoach.com. And that's also my handle for TikTok and Instagram and Facebook at Meg the Divorce Coach. So I'd love to connect with you. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.